We've been talking a lot about how bats can affect human health, but are there any risks to the bats themselves? I mean, do they get sick too?
Oh, yeah, bats can definitely get sick, just like any other animal. One disease that's been really devastating is white nose syndrome. It's a fungal disease that has killed a huge number of bats in North America.
Wow, I hadn't heard of that one. What else?
Well, there's rabies, of course, although bats actually only account for a small number of human rabies cases. And then there are a bunch of parasites like mites, ticks, and fleas that can affect them too.
So even with their amazing immune systems, they're not invincible.
Nope, not at all. And it's important to remember that protecting bats isn't just about stopping them from making us sick. It's about making sure they stay healthy, too.
That's a really good point. So besides disease, what other threats do bats face?
Losing and having their habitats broken up are huge problems. Deforestation, urbanization, agriculture, all of those things destroy and fragment bat habitats. This makes it harder for them to find food and good places to roost.
That makes sense. We keep encroaching on their space, making it tougher for them to survive.
Exactly. And then you've got climate change. Rising temperatures and crazy weather events are messing with their migration patterns and affecting their ability to find food and raise their young. Oh, and we can't forget about pesticides. Insecticides can kill bats directly or indirectly by reducing their food supply. And even wind turbines pose a threat because bats can fly into the blades.
It's amazing how many challenges they're up against, both natural and caused by us.
It really shows how important it is to take a comprehensive approach to conservation and consider all these different factors.
So what can we do to help protect bats? Is it something individuals can do, or is it more up to governments and big organizations?
It definitely takes a team effort, but individuals can absolutely make a difference. For one, supporting bat conservation organizations is a great way to contribute. And then there are things we can do in our own lives, like reducing our use of pesticides, maybe by switching to organic gardening, or building bat houses to give them more places to roost. Even just talking to other people about how important bats are can help a lot.
Yeah, it's about raising awareness and changing how people see bats.
Exactly. It's time to move away from fear and towards appreciation. Bats are fascinating creatures that play a vital role, and we need to do our part to protect them.
Okay, so we've covered the science, the risks, the conservation work. But what about culture? Bats have been in our folklore and mythology for centuries, and they don't always get the best rap. How do those cultural ideas affect conservation efforts?
That's a great point. Bats definitely have a complicated relationship with human culture. In some cultures, they're seen as symbols of good luck, prosperity, and a long life. In others, they're feared and associated with evil spirits and disease.
It seems like our ideas about bats are often based more on stories and myths than on science.
That's true. And unfortunately, those negative perceptions can make conservation harder.
So how do we change those perceptions? How do we shift the narrative from fear to fascination?
Education is key. When people learn more about bats and what they do for the environment, fear and superstition can be replaced with appreciation and respect.
I think it's important to emphasize that bats aren't dangerous by nature. They're just trying to survive like any other animal.
Exactly. And while they do carry some risks to human health, we can manage those risks through awareness, prevention, and being responsible in our interactions with them.
So it's all about finding that balance between respecting bats and keeping ourselves safe.
Exactly. We can find that balance by combining scientific understanding, public education, and policies that support bat conservation.
It's wild how different cultures see bats in such different ways. You mentioned that in some places they're actually considered good luck.
Yeah, that's right. Like in China, bats are often connected with things like prosperity and happiness.
Really. That's so different from how we often see them in the West, like creepy or even dangerous. What makes them see bats that way?
It probably comes down to a mix of things: cultural beliefs, old stories, and folklore, and just the historical context. In Chinese culture, the word for bat sounds almost the same as the word for good fortune. So over time, they've become symbols of prosperity and long life.
Wow, so the way the words sound actually shaped how they see bats. That's pretty amazing.
It is. And if you look at traditional Chinese art and decorations, you often see bats along with other lucky symbols like peaches and coins.
So they're basically like good omens.
Yeah, kind of. They're seen as bringing wealth, happiness, and a long life.
That's such a contrast to the image we often get in the West, where they're portrayed as these disease-carrying creatures.
It just goes to show how important it is to understand different cultural perspectives when we're talking about bat conservation. If we want to protect bats around the world, we have to respect the diverse ways people see and value them.
So it's not just about the science, it's about the culture too.
Exactly. We need to consider different cultural beliefs and practices to find common ground. That's how we develop conservation strategies that actually work and are sensitive to those different cultures.
Finding solutions that benefit both people and bats. That's a great approach.
It's all about finding that balance.
Well, we've really explored a lot in our deep dive into bats, viruses, and human health, from their incredible adaptations to their role in the ecosystem, the risks they pose, and the threats they face. If you could sum it all up, what's the one thing you'd want our listeners to take away?
I think the most important takeaway is this. Bats are not our enemies. They're fascinating animals that play a vital role in keeping our ecosystems healthy. While they do carry viruses, and some of those viruses can spread to humans, the vast majority of bats are not a threat to us. And even the risks that they do present can be managed through understanding, prevention, and responsible interactions. We need to move past fear and embrace respect and appreciation for these incredible creatures.
Well said. So instead of being afraid of bats, we should be focusing on understanding them and how important they are to our planet.
Exactly. And we should support efforts to protect them and their habitats.
It's amazing how much this deep dive has changed my perspective. We started by acknowledging the whole bats are scary thing, but now we can see them as complex creatures with both strengths and weaknesses.
I like that. It's a great way to put it. They're not simply good or bad. They're part of this intricate web of life. And understanding their place in that web is crucial for our own well-being.
And maybe the biggest lesson is that we need to be proactive instead of reactive. Instead of just waiting for outbreaks to happen, we should focus on preventing them. It's all about respecting the balance of nature and recognizing that our actions have ripple effects.
I completely agree. It's about embracing the One Health approach, the idea that human health, animal health, and environmental health are all interconnected. We need to move beyond that us versus them mentality and work towards a future where we can coexist sustainably with all creatures, including bats.
What an incredible journey this has been. I'm honestly leaving with a newfound appreciation for these often misunderstood creatures of the night.
That's wonderful to hear. Remember, knowledge is power. The more we learn about bats, the better prepared we'll be to protect ourselves and these amazing animals.
And on that note, we want to thank you all for joining us on this deep dive into the world of bats. We hope you learned something new and maybe even gained a little respect for these creatures of the night.
Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the wonders of the natural world.